And then I lost my son, and that brought on all this depression, and I got even more focused. And that's where my programs were born, was around simplicity, eating more simply, eating natural foods, eating steadily throughout the day instead of less, and eating more. I knew that I couldn't just teach someone nutrition and fitness. Everybody was doing that. Unless I could reach somebody on the subconscious level, that they were going to yo-yo. All of us have intuition. All of us have deep gifts within us. All of us are connected to spirit. We are spirit. Everyone. Pay attention. What are the trees saying? What is the wind saying? What is the feeling that's coming up? What are the thoughts that are coming up and out, right? A belief of an expectation that I should have this job, or I should have this money, or I should have this relationship, or I should have this health. And it's like, should you, or should we just pull back the mask? Welcome to the Danette May Show, where you'll receive profound breakthroughs, courage to break old patterns, and live into your soul's purpose. Each week, I will bring you epic guests and live coaching to remind you of your power. You have the ability to achieve extraordinary things, and the time to start is now.
Danette, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I'm so excited for our conversation. And where I actually want to start is maybe with a question that you wouldn't expect. This question actually comes from my mom.
Does she know who I am? Or is
Yes.
she just... Oh, she does. Okay.
So when I met you back at your book launch for Embrace Abundance, someone had shared a picture on social media, and my mom said, "Do you know Danette May? You know Danette?" And I was like, "Well, I just met her." And my mom said, "I've been following her from the beginning of her fitness career. I was watching her fitness videos." She said, she was like my favorite fitness influencer before influencers were ever even really a thing. And she said, "I have a question." So I ended up telling her that you and I were going to podcast together. And she said, "Oh, I have a question that I want you to ask her that I thought was so good that would really set the tone for our conversation." She said, "Ask her how her philosophy or her perspectives about health has changed from the beginning of when she started in the fitness industry to now." And my follow-up question to that is, if your perspectives or approach has shifted, what do you feel like we're, especially as women, being invited into when we're approaching our health?
Wow, what a fabulous question. And hi, Mom. I hope she listens to your podcast. But yeah, thank you for tuning in to the things that I was doing for so many years. And you know what's fascinating about my philosophy with nutrition? So I'll just share with everybody what my philosophy has been from the very, very beginning. It came from, I went into nutrition. I was in like fitness in college. Like that's was my background. It was learning nutrition and movement and things like that. And I was learning all these different things in college, which fundamentally were not the truth when it comes to it. It was very Americanized nutrition, like the pyramid of like eat your lot of grains, and then it moved all the way up. Everyone's probably seen the nutrition pyramid. And I knew that couldn't possibly be the truth, right? But I learned it. That was my education. And I started going to being a trainer and working with clients, and I'm always super curious person. And so I would look at like how women trained and men, and I was realizing that the studies were really based on men and not women. And we were receiving all this information around non-fat and low fat and about like sugar substitutes. And I was like, so I just started learning, which we now know is like Eastern nutrition. I was like, this cannot be truth. Like, it can't be about the fat, and it can't be about low carb, and it can't be about these like sugar alternatives. And I was discovering that wasn't actually what was going to be healthy, that we needed to return back to the earth. And then I lost my son, and that brought on all this depression, and I got even more focused. And that's where my programs were born, was around simplicity, around eating more simply, eating natural foods, eating steadily throughout the day instead of less, and eating more. And I would say that I keep looking at the trends of what's coming out, and I'm like, my program is so lock tight, and my philosophy has not changed. I don't even go out and promote my programs anymore. So I could change my opinion, right? But I'm here to say that the stuff that I've taught back then is the same thing that I do today and I still stand on today, which is eating for women. Like my programs were designed for women, and granted the tests are more for men. So there's intermittent fasting, there's all this like only eat protein or or vegan or whatever. There's all these different things out there. And mine is just really following your body, eating protein in every meal. It was always talking about that. Now you hear all about it because the hormones have changed and women need more protein. My program was always incorporating protein. It was eating small amounts throughout the day so that you stayed satiated and you were really respecting your body versus starving it. It was about less workout time versus these long duration, high intensity workouts. It was lower, like, and then doing some walking, and which we're finding works with the hormones of women 40 plus, and eating whole foods, like eating real food, not processed food, not going and feeling like you have to buy the latest, greatest shake and protein shake. That's fine if you want to supplement with it, but it was like those things were being touted back in the day, like the healthiest thing to get your hands on. And I was like,
totally. Yeah.
So no, actually, I would say that nothing has actually changed, and I still follow my program today, and I would still.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's so fascinating. I can so relate to so many things that you're saying because I'm a classically trained dietitian. So seeing those things like the food pyramid, and I'm curious too if part of your philosophy, because so much of what I know you talk about is this connection with your body, this connection with your emotions, with your guidance system and your intuition. And would you say that over time that has all become a part of your philosophy around health that maybe you didn't in the beginning, or was that always a really strong piece for you?
Yeah, it was interesting because I always knew that it wasn't about exercise and food only. And I was, back in the day, I was like, how do I bridge this? Because I'm not like this meditation teacher, but I knew I needed to work with people's subconscious, which is your intuitive part of you. It is your spirit part of you. It is your connection to nature part of you. And I didn't know how to bridge that world because I was kind of before everyone else talking about it. But I knew that I couldn't just teach someone nutrition and fitness. Everybody was doing that. It's not like it was new information, but I knew that unless I could reach somebody on the subconscious level, that they were going to yo-yo, that they were going to have like times when they ate really well and then times when they fell off. And because we are human, we are driven by our emotions. And so every one of my programs, even from the beginning, was laced with these hypnosis type meditations where you could drop in for 6 minutes to your inner breath, to these affirmations or whatever the meditation was. But I grouped them with every program so that we were slowly rewiring your subconscious around honoring yourself, around listening and learning how to listen. Because a lot of people are like, how do you listen? What is intuition? Is it just how do I really even cultivate that? And so those meditations were a part of the program from the beginning. Whether people did them or not, I don't know. But the ones who stayed on the programs or the ones who really embodied this, I think were the ones doing the meditations.
Yeah. Can you talk about that because I think the concept of bringing in intuition, and you're talking about hypnosis and reprogramming the subconscious, is so new to a lot of people. And so what could that look like? What kind of possibility does that open up for somebody when they start addressing things on a deeper level or accessing their intuition? What could that open up for somebody?
What could that open up? Everything. It's why I think it's our greatest superpower. Honestly, it will open up every area of your life. Obviously some of us come up and are like, hey, I want to feel better in my body. I want to get healthy. I feel achy, or I feel like I want to get pregnant, or whatever the thing is. And so we turn to food because we're swallowing this stuff. We're ingesting this stuff into ourselves. So nutrition is huge, right? And then moving our body, we already know all the health benefits, but if we don't address the mind, and when I talk about the mind, it's not your conscious mind that says, hey, I want to lose weight or I have this goal. It's the subconscious belief systems. It's the subconscious programming that we all received. We all received different programming when we were younger. And unless we're willing to go in there and figure out what is that programming, what is that deep, deep cellular truth or belief? And is some of it need to get turned on a little bit more? Does some need to be removed? Because a lot of people that are dealing with health issues or even weight issues, usually there is this deep subconscious belief system that's going on, and it can be from trauma. Maybe you're trying to protect yourself. You're building up fat layers to protect yourself from being sexually abused, right? Or being too attractive. Like sometimes we don't even know that these things are going on. And that's why getting to the subconscious level will be, it can be confronting for some. That's why I think we don't talk about it a lot, but it will change everything. Not only your body, your health, your relationships, your wealth, your happiness, the way you show up and move through the world, the relationships you have that feel fulfilling. It will change everything.
And when I do want to come back to that. I don't want to forget, but when I hear you speak and it comes from like such an embodied place that it almost feels very natural and very effortless to you. And sometimes I know people can think that that's discouraging because they're like, well, that's not natural for me. And I think that this connection with your intuition and your guidance system has probably come from struggle and lessons maybe that you've had to learn. Can you backtrack and share a little bit about your story and how you developed this sense of trust and connection with your body?
Yeah, I didn't always have it. And I think all of us, just so I speak to this, all of us have intuition. All of us have deep gifts within us. All of us are connected to spirit. We are spirit. Everyone. I don't care what your story is around it. That's my belief system. And I really invite you to grab a hold of this because it's true. What happens often is that we forget. We forget because of just different conditionings we grow up with, or something might have happened. And so, of course, I think all of us have a story. All of us have had these refiner fire moments, and some of us are lucky to have many of them where we're just forged in the fire, right? And if you think about a beautiful diamond, they're forged in the fire. And so for me, my fire, and I share this for you to find your story and my story, but, I grew up very, very religious. And I remember, and when I say really religious, like a lot of clothes, girls never showed, parts of their body. And in that, and I'm not to discourage this religion or anyone's religion. It's just more that the conditioning was around these are the truths, and whatever you think is true is not true. You need to check yourself because we're telling you what's true. So any time that's going on, you learn how to turn off your intuition. You just know that, hey, you know what? That goes against something that I'm being taught. I should just dismiss it. I should shut it down. Do not open that Pandora's box, right? And so you get really good at just going, what am I supposed to believe? And anything that might come up, I'm just going to put to the side. And so I was living my life like that. And of course, I would get sick a lot. I mean, I can't, like my first marriage, I had appendicitis. I had a gallbladder issue. I was sick all the time. And a lot of times people might be like, oh, it's just the weather. The stuff's going around in the world right now. Everybody's getting sick. Oh, it's just your body. No, it was my body screaming at me to try to wake me up to my truth. But I didn't know that at the time. So I was just getting sick. And then I'm getting pregnant with my second son. And well, not my second child, which was a son. My first is a daughter. And I was so good at turning off my intuition that when my intuition came on saying something was wrong, that I should go to the hospital, something didn't feel right. I was trying to get him to kick and he wouldn't kick, and I couldn't wake him up in my belly. We do that as moms that are pregnant. We're like, oh, watching the kick. And because I was so good at turning off my intuition, I did it in that moment. And I got up and got busy and I started doing the dishes. And I've learned a lot from this moment. I always say that this passing, my son passed away. I woke up the next day and was going to the hospital, and he was a place where he could have possibly survived. I was that far along, but I didn't listen, and it woke me up to, wow, it's time to start listening. And I believe now the reason I didn't listen is because if I listened then I would also need to listen to all the other ways I was shutting and quieting myself down, the relationships I was keeping, the the way I operated in life, shoving down my truth. And so, you know, I really, really believe he moved on to wake me up. And now he's with me in all of it, right? Now he's in with me in another realm. But this was an opportunity. And obviously, I went through a deep depression. This is when my life just started spiraling, started questioning even if I wanted to exist on this planet. I felt guilty. I felt all this emotion started to swirl. And I believe this was a big dark night for me, dark night of the soul we hear of, for me to like slowly start to come back to myself. And also just to dismantle. I think when we break down and we hit what we call our rock bottoms, the only direction we have is up if we so choose. And I'm grateful for that because I kind of needed it to climb out, to kind of start to go, you know, I don't care what anyone thinks anymore. I'm so sad that I'm just going to start taking care of myself and listening to myself now. And it wasn't like it happened overnight. It was a slow process, and it took years for me to just start every day slowly using my voice. And it got darker before it got better. I ended up going through a divorce. I ended up changing my life. That's when people started knowing who I was, because then I started going, what is this nutrition stuff? This is what I love, this fitness, this body connection. Where am I not listening to my body? Where am I not listening to my wisdom? And if you read my book, The Rise, I even talk about, I had painful sex. Like I literally was like, oh, I'm just broken. And my body was just screaming that this wasn't the right relationship. And I just believe these bodies are such powerful messengers if we so choose to listen.
Yeah, I would love to jam on that a little bit more, because what I heard from your story is this place that was the most heartbreaking, the hardest, was actually your catalyst to break open something new. And I think that can be so hard to trust when you're in the moment. I know a lot of people, it's like their hardest moment is right on the edge of like their catalyst for their biggest great breakthrough, their biggest change. And sometimes we don't hear those whispers of the body that's like, hey, something is off. Hey, you're not living in alignment with your greatest desires and what's true for you, until those moments become a scream, like the experience that you had or somebody's health crisis. And sometimes it's like those things that really shake us up. And so how does that feel for you in your body? What are the ways that you listen to your body, whether it's through like those sensations or different ways, that tells you like when you're on your path or when you're off your path?
Yeah, and I'll speak to this in different realms. So first off, anyone listening, just check in. Is there any body aches that are consistent? Do you have indigestion? Do you have hip pain, knee pain, ear pain? Really tuning into what might be a persistent or chronic thing that you're dealing with. And then what you want to do is go, what are you here to teach me? So for example, this is how, and you can get a beautiful book called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. And that might help you navigate this. But I always say tune in before you read a book, because you might receive your own intuition. So for example, if you're having earaches a lot, what do I not want to hear? What truth do I not want to hear? Like asking yourself this, taking a moment to go inward. Let's say you have shoulder stuff. You're like, and if you think about the shoulder, you can ask yourself, what am I carrying that I want to set down? What am I carrying that I want to set down? And then you can also about with your legs or your knees, anything with the walking motion, what direction am I going that my body's saying, please don't go that direction? And then the stomach, if you're having indigestion, things in your heart, like where are you not receiving love or giving love? Where are you not listening to your truth? Where do you not feel safe? If there's a lot of stomach stuff, usually you don't feel safe. Where am I not feeling safe, but I'm pretending I do feel safe? And what kind of conversations, or do I need to move out of a situation? Things like that. It's like really important to like ask the body and then start asking the right questions, and you'll start to go, oh, and most of the time our body is communicating the decisions we're making, the people we're keeping in our life, where we're shoving down our voice, where we're actually not honoring what we want to do or how we want to operate during the day. the kind of friends we want to have, the kind of work we want to do, and we just shove it down, and then the body starts to talk, and it'll just get louder and louder, and until you actually have to do something about it. And I see people just go surgery after surgery after surgery saying their body's broken when actually it's just communicating.
Yeah. And I would imagine that those signals, the more in connection you are, or the more you pay attention, you could probably fine tune those signals a little bit more.
Absolutely.
From the loud physical sensations to maybe intuition. Does that feel softer to you? Does it feel a little bit more quiet, or something like you have to pay more attention to? I guess that could maybe depend on the situation, huh?
Yeah. And I think, like you just said it, I think you nailed it. I believe, and this is a belief that's stirring even more, and I've always believed intuition's a superpower that we all can have access to. But I believe as the world is speeding up right now, with the advancements with AI, with social media, with even just media all around us, the intuition is going to be the greatest resource any of us have. And the only way to cultivate intuition is like going to a gym, or it's like anything you're learning, you've got to strengthen that muscle, right? You've got to strengthen. It's not like, because of our conditioning, a lot of times it gets quieter or muffled, or it doesn't feel like it's super turned on, right? So you've got to start cultivating this relationship. The question might be, how do I cultivate it? Like, how do I decipher fear versus intuition versus what I want, right? And I would say it's actually more simple than we actually give it credit for. We like to complicate everything because that's human. But every single day, and I call this soul time, but you don't have to call it anything. You can call it what you like. But every day, turning off the phone, turning off any sounds, people, anything, and just saying, I'm going to commune with myself. So that means asking internal questions. Might be journaling for you. It might just be asking and seeing what comes up, asking questions about your life, asking what your body wants to tell you, and not Googling it, Googling inside, right? Googling inside. And at first you might be like, I'm drawing a blank. I'm not getting anything. But as you stay consistent with the everyday of getting quiet, sometimes some people walk in nature. Pay attention. What are the trees saying? What is the wind saying? What is the feeling that's coming up? What are the thoughts that are coming up and out, right? This can be like meditation. For some of you, it's just a walk in nature every day without any distractions, or sitting in the morning in inquiry without Googling, without your phone, without the EMFs going on around, with all the technology. And that muscle will get stronger and stronger as you stay consistent.
Yeah. And you brought up things where fear, it can take time to differentiate what's fear or maybe my conditioning versus my intuition. And also just from your past experiences with different belief systems that maybe you no longer align with, that may have created certain beliefs. And so how do you see that keeping some people stuck, where maybe their past experiences or their trauma or their conditioning maybe being a wall that's keeping them from moving forward because their fears feel so real, or they're about what's possible for them, about their worthiness, about the beliefs that they created, and maybe that being a wall. And from your perspective, do you see that people need to clear that belief or that wall before they can keep pushing forward? If maybe that could be the thing that's pulling them back. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So maybe I'm going to draw this analogy because we all have trauma. Welcome, everyone. Everyone has trauma. Lucky you, lucky me, lucky Gina. But I always look at it, trauma, because we all have it. Whether you think you had the perfect upbringing, I promise you have some type of trauma, some type of belief system. So when you say the wall, I want everyone to think of glass in front of them, and it's super dirty that you can't even see a reflection back or through the glass. Of course, like, let's just say it's really thick. It's really dirty. The invitation, because if you have a dirty glass, it's hard to see the future.
Mhm.
it's hard to know what's coming. And that can create fear because you can't even see through the glass. You don't know who's coming. You don't know where you're going. It can feel disorienting, not
Mhm.
clarity, a lack of worthiness because it feels dirty. It doesn't feel clean and you're embarrassed. You don't want anyone to see your glass. And so an invitation is that you're not going to clean that whole glass in one day, but an invitation to just work on one area every single day. And as you work on it, doesn't mean that you don't still feel the feelings of fear or the feelings of uncertainty or the feelings of unworthiness. You're just going to work on clearing the glass a little bit every single day. How do you clear the glass? Honest communication, speaking your truth when it's
Mhm.
uncomfortable, getting into that quiet time that I just shared. It's reflecting. There's a lot of meditations on healing the inner child that you can get free on YouTube. I have a ton of them because it's really about going inward to excavate. That's really the mirror of the glass, is the reflection internally. It's excavating the wounds, excavating where these belief systems got lodged, and actually cleaning it off. And so it does require meditation. Sometimes you need support, maybe going to a coach, getting a coach to help you clean the glass because you're like, I don't know the right questions right now. I'll get better at it, but starting somewhere with some support can be really helpful. That's why I created Lotus Rising, was for that, because I started realizing as I woke up with nutrition and all my other clients were waking up with nutrition, because you do wake up when you start eating better and you start moving, you're like, oh my gosh, I've got this toxic friendship. I've got this toxic
Yep.
job. Like you just start seeing everything because the glass is a little clearer because you're starting to eat better, right? And so you're like, whoa, I didn't realize I had all this going on. And oh my gosh, my mom, my dad, I can tell like things from my childhood. Oh gosh, I gotta like, and you don't know where to begin. And so getting a good coach can be really, really helpful. And then having access to really good meditations, hypnosis, things like that to help you work through that can be really, really helpful. But that's how you start. And it's literally a little bit every day.
Hmm. Especially when you said about getting a coach, I think that is probably so important because some of those beliefs feel so real. They feel so true. And it's hard to like believe that anything else could be true. But I would imagine that that's probably the weight that keeps people from being able to really access their power. If you also at the same time have this weight of, I'd love to be healthier, but I'm not good enough. Or I'd love to be healthier, but I don't deserve to take time for myself or whatever the belief
Yeah.
is, right? I mean,
Yep. Exactly.
one other thing that you said too is taking each of those little things as they come up and working on them. And it seems like those are actually the biggest transformations that people could have is like we celebrate these big achievements in our world, like complete this plan, finish this, whatever. And, nothing against those plans or anything, but it almost seems like the power is really in those small little micro moments that are actually really unlocking something maybe so much bigger. And it's like those quiet little tiny things that a lot of people aren't talking about.
Exactly. I think I have a title in my book, The Rise, called Small Hinges Move Big Doors. And I love that quote because it's exactly what you said. It's most big monumental things like the big door swinging open is really from those three small or four small hinges. It's those small little movements. It's the smaller things that we often can miss that are going to be the biggest things.
Yeah. And I would imagine that through that process, it also requires quite an identity shift
Mhm.
in like how you see yourself. And in your process from your evolution, have you had a big identity that you've had to let go and shed and feel the discomfort of that?
Of course. Of course. And actually, I think it's perfect that you're asking this because we're in the year of the snake. It's 2025. I think every single person is shedding something right now. I mean, it is one of the biggest, most collective upheaval that any of us have experienced. I mean, we all have our times, right? We all have our moments, but I think this year literally showed new relationships, new jobs, moving. Some people dealt with sickness. I mean, there were so many changes that were making you pull back the mask and like shed something. And usually it's a belief. It's like a belief of an expectation that I should have this job, or I should have this money, or I should have this relationship, or I should have this health. And it's like, should you, or should we just pull back the mask for you to slough? Like I always think of like character, true character, like our authentic character is revealed when we go through a sloughing process, when we start to shed and demask, and it's uncomfortable and it's not fun. But the greatest elements come from it if we allow it, if we allow this shedding process to happen and don't resist it, like just go through it. So yeah, I think we all have an opportunity to re-identify. I'm constantly re-identifying. This year has also brought a new identification for me. I'm always staying curious to what did I believe that maybe I believe differently now, and being okay to change my belief and being okay to change. We can recreate ourselves literally like that. We could look at Gina in a year from now and not even recognize her. That is literally up to us if we choose that.
Yeah, I love this analogy. It reminded me of what you just said. One of my mentors, she calls it lobstering up, which is where lobsters, they grow so big and then they actually start to outgrow their shell. And their bodies create so much pressure against the shell that the shell actually breaks open. And then when the shell breaks open, they have like their tender, raw bodies that don't have a shell, but they like outgrew their shell. And then a new, bigger one comes in, and they do that all throughout their life. And so she calls it lobstering up, of like when we've outgrown our shells. And it's painful when you're in it.
Yeah, I bet it isn't comfortable for a lobster. And how vulnerable when the shell breaks. That's why it's so scary to grow. It's why it's so scary to trust your intuition, why it's so scary to change, because you are vulnerable for a moment.
Yes. Yeah. And I would imagine that like when a lot of people are on that edge of where they are at their most vulnerable moment, when they're ready to change, their friends, like their health, maybe their relationship, they're on the edge of like where they feel their intuition and it feels so strong. They feel their intuition calling or like their soul's calling, like you've mentioned. It probably also equally brings up the most fear. And actually, I want to bring up this part of your book, The Rise. I hope you're not weirded out. I'm going to read to you a part of your book.
No, I'm
No, I think that this is because we're talking about fear, and you said something about entering into a bikini competition.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure terrified just about anybody. But you said something really important, that I wasn't doing this for validation for myself or to receive value. I was doing this to step into radical fear. I was stepping on stage as a sign that I valued myself, to prove despite all my imperfections and experience, I could follow through on something that terrified me. I was doing this for me to see if I could follow through my soul's calling, even if it didn't make sense. And so for that woman who is maybe feeling something similar of like, I'm on the edge, I'm feeling my intuition, I'm feeling my soul's calling, that I'm ready to change, but there's also so much fear, what would you want to say to her?
On the other side of fear is freedom. And there's a quote by Campbell who goes, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." And I love that because it is so true. And oftentimes we just got to hold fear by the hand and walk through and know and trust and say, I'm not going to let go of this fear. It's here. It's not like I got to wait till it goes away. I'm walking in anyway. And honestly, most successful people are walking with fear all the time and you don't even know it.
So for people who are thinking about moving forward, but they're feeling that hesitation and that resistance, is that their intuition telling them it's not the right time? Or is the right time when we can hold both the fear and move forward towards our desires? How can they feel the difference?
Yeah, this is a good one. And this is why I think it's very important for you to in and do the work I just mentioned around every day, asking questions and getting still to listen to your own voice, because it will It might tell you to do something, and then all of a sudden you feel I call them the butterflies. You start to feel your stomach, and you're like, feels like fear. And this is what's going on chemically in the body. So if you feel something, for example, I'm going to move. I'm going to move to this new state, or I need to leave this relationship. Like I can feel that like you just had this hit in your soul time, in your quiet time. You're like, yeah, this isn't right for me. Or I would like to move, or I'm going to quit this job and take this other job, or I'm going to quit this job and I don't have another job, but I'm feeling this in my quiet. Most likely you are going to feel fear. You're going to get a turning in your belly. You're going to get stiff in your neck. You're going to feel like you want to maybe throw up, because what happens is the brain, all it knows is you signaled a change, and the brain is here to protect you. And so the brain, as soon as you declare you're going to change something, whatever it is, like to someone else, it might be just changing your outfit. Like everyone carries a different threat of fear, but all the brain does is it goes alert, alert, change is on its way. And it's so archaic and just such a mechanism that all it knows, because your twirling of your butterflies could be excitement. Any runner that gets on the race line wants to throw up. Any extreme athlete ready to go compete wants to throw up. They feel butterflies. They feel that feeling, which the brain might say is fear, but we're finding that it's actually the same chemical released for excitement. And so what I do is I'm like, okay, I felt this in soul time. It doesn't feel comfortable. I feel sick, but it's not going to hurt anyone. I'm not going to hurt myself to do this change. And I just recognize it's my brain creating a chemical response in the body. Okay, thank you, body, letting me know change is about to happen, and I'm going to move forward anyway. And that's how you know. That's how you know. Is it going to really hurt anyone? Ask yourself this. What is the worst possible thing that could possibly happen if I do this? Honestly, most of the things that we're afraid of, we create kind of this, go beyond it. Like we create the worst case scenario. Keep going. What's the worst case? And most of it's like, I'll be alone forever by myself in the dirt eating bugs. And it's not even true. It's not even true. And so ask yourself, is this absolutely true? And most likely you will be like, it's not. It's just my mind creating a scenario that not even probably true, and move forward anyway.
Yeah. And maybe even the flip side of like, how good could things be? By leaning into
can I take it? That's a big mantra that I love. How good can I take it?
Oh, I love that. Like, what is really possible? And I think sometimes a lot of people who are here listening to this podcast are kind of on that edge of like, I'm curious, I'm thinking about really changing my life. I'm thinking about showing up for myself in different ways. And I'm kind of like on that edge of I'm considering it, or I'm already into it, but I'm feeling the nerves of just making the leap and exploring like, what is the fear on the other side? Is it that I'm afraid I'll never be able to have my favorite foods again? Is it afraid that I might let myself down? And probably bringing up all of those things that are the biggest fears, but maybe on the other side of that could be, how great could it possibly be? And like he said, what is the worst case scenario outcome?
Totally.
What I find really interesting and really unique is that you come from the fitness world and following like these principles of caring and taking care of your body, but you also have this very like nurturing energy. And we're such in a culture of things around like discipline and a focus on eating as less as possible and mental grit and push and willpower. And I think that we're starting to, I think as women, be drawn to like leaning more into these natural feminine gifts that we have that you really embody really well. And it seems like the way that you care for your body is from a place of devotion rather than grit and discipline. And so for people who have not like experienced that type of energy, like what that looks like or feels like, I'm curious what that does, or what does like devotion look like for you as a practice, or what does it feel like for you to care for your body from that way?
I love that you've picked up on that. I think it's honestly the biggest differentiator. is really loving your body, loving and honoring it and treating it like a temple, because it is a temple. And so I always, and this is a practice, right? Especially if you grew up with people telling you you're not worthy, or you didn't feel beautiful, or who am I to spoil myself or to love myself? We all come with these different backgrounds, right? Around this honoring of ourselves. And me too, right? I didn't learn this from my mother. I had to really cultivate this within me, but I really looked at my body like a temple. And I wouldn't walk into a temple with dirty shoes on. I wouldn't go in and put trash in there. And I also look at my body, if you don't like the word temple, like a beautiful cenote. So if you've ever been to Mexico, they have these beautiful pools of water where, they're got stalactites, and they used to be holy caves, and you can swim in them, and it's actually repurposed water so you can drink it and things like that. And my friend was telling me she was swimming in this beautiful cenote, and it was kind of a popular one, and they're like stunning, beautiful turquoise waters. And these boys up above, because it was almost like a cape, were throwing in Skittles at the top into the water, and just like the wrapping paper. And she was so mad about it. And this particular friend of mine is also overweight, and she's a big giver out in the world. She has her career and she's a wonderful mother, but she doesn't always feed herself the best, and she overeats, and she doesn't eat always the best quality. Sometimes like forgoes her workout. And she was just telling me about the cenote. And since we're friends, I was like, can I offer you some insight? And I said, what makes you mad about these Skittles and these wrapping papers being thrown from the top of the cenote into these sacred waters? And she was like, well, I mean, it's polluting the water. It's desecrating this sacred, honorable cenote. And I said, imagine you were a cenote. And what food are you putting down from the top of the hole, which is our mouth, that's desecrating? It was like, oh, whoa. And so imagining yourself every single day as this temple or this beautiful flower or a cenote, how would you take care of it? How would you honor it? Because you are this. You are to the Creator this beautiful embodiment, and you have every right. And I think it's part of this evolution that we get to be humans on this planet, to go, how do I honor this vessel? I am not this vessel. I am not my body. I am not the temple. I am not the cenote. I am the caretaker of it. And how do I take care of it? And when you start to talk like that, and then you start to ask your body, what would you like? It doesn't mean I don't eat croissants and something sweet. I remember like being in Croatia, and they were making these fresh croissants. I'm like, yes, energetically, that is like exactly what my body wants. Like, it's delicious homemade croissant made by this wonderful grandma woman back in the kitchen. Yes, I do want that. And also, I also say no to inhumane meat and inhumane eggs. I don't want that energy in my body. And so it's really easy for me to say no. If I can't have humane meat, I don't eat it. I'm good. I'm fine eating the salad. I don't need it, because I can listen. I can ask. I can say, do you want this? And what is that frequency? What is that energy behind that food that I'm going to put into my beautiful cenote or temple?
Beautiful. Yeah, I think you mentioned something related to how you eat and caring for your body. I believe that that's what you're talking about when you said it's like cleaning out the cobwebs of your soul. If I remember that right, and it kind of brings together that it's like, if you're not putting good quality food in your body, and you're creating pain and you're creating inflammation, and you can't quite sense what is a yes and a no for you, like how could we hear our soul or our intuition? And so I would imagine that connection with your intuition and listening to what your soul is reaching out for is probably also very closely connected with how you care for your body and what you choose to put in it and things like that.
I would say anybody listening, if they're listening to this, they already intuitively know, because they're probably following you and what you're sharing, they intuitively know what the body's seeking, or the body wouldn't have sought you out in your show. And so just really listening and going, okay, what does Gina eat? Like, what is Gina teaching? What is Danette teaching? What are they eating? And then just embody, like, practice it as well, because you already got here for a reason. Take a hold of it and let this also be your identity, because it really is about claiming that you have a healthy identity, that you are a healthy person, that you're an honoring person. Like, you can claim that identity. It's not mine. It's not Gina's. It's not someone else. You get to claim that too. And you get to have that and create your own identity.
I love that. And you're always talking about like sharpening that intuition and their own knowing. Are there specific practices that somebody can do, or rituals that either you do or that you would suggest people do?
For what? For sharpening your intuition?
Sharpening their intuition, the connection with themselves, developing that self-trust muscle.
Yeah, that would be, once again, that soul time every single day. I do not skip it, whether I'm on vacation or not. I journal. I'll ask in my journal, what would you have me know? And I'll just journal whatever comes through. I don't second guess it. I don't think it's weird. I trust that there is a higher power, whether it's within me or externally. It doesn't matter. I'm trusting in that. So cultivating that relationship. Another non-negotiable, and these are actually I'm looking at a door right now. These are my 3 hinges. So my 3 hinges of my big door that move big doors is my non-negotiables. And one is soul time every single day to tune into my intuition, because I believe it's the greatest superpower any of us will have when I wake up. Yeah. And now let's just say I wake up and it's just crazy, because whatever the experience is, then I will move it. But I try to get up earlier than it gets crazy. So I take ownership of the time I wake up so that I can actually have this soul time. And then 2 would be nature. I never miss a day to connect with nature. I believe nature and the animals within nature hold deeper wisdom than any human possibly, or any Google or any AI device. And with that knowing, I connect, I listen, I let the breeze touch my face, I let the sun touch my face and my eyes. I listen. What are the birds singing? What animals are coming in my presence? Is there a possible message in that animal? I really connect every single day with nature. And then my 3rd is I have something green every day. Now, that can look like a million things, right? But I consume something green every single day.
I love that. How did those come together? Those 3 things, those 3 hinges.
I did some journaling many, many years ago on what would be my negotiables. What would be my 3 small hinges that move a big door in my life? And those were my 3.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. Those 3 hinges. I have to think about that for myself. Those are really good ones. I might take some of those. Is there anything else that you would like to leave people with when they're just beginning, or they're just on that edge of really breaking into something bigger? Is there anything that you would like to leave them with?
Yeah, you're stepping into something bigger. You're stepping into something more. And usually what's on the other, like what's holding you back from stepping there, is that you don't believe you're worthy of that moreness, that greater expansion, that greater feeling, that greater peace. There's an unworthiness tied to it typically, or you would have stepped, right? And I just want to allow you to step forward. You don't have to pack your whole family on your back. You don't have to take people kicking and screaming. You don't have to justify your step. And to know that you are worthy, you saw the direction you want to step to, you feel it, so step through. Let everyone off your back. You won't fit through the door carrying them through. Step off, let them come off, and walk through the door.
Thank you so much, Danette, and thanks for being here. I'll see you next time.